A Moldovan security official accused Russia on Sunday of massive interference as voters cast their ballots in a tight presidential race. It's a runoff election that could see Moscow claw back influence in a country drawing closer to the European Union. Pro-Western incumbent Maia Sandu spoke of defending the country's sovereignty after voting in the capital, Chisinau. Thieves want to buy our voices, buy our country, but the power of the people is much greater than the power of evil, she said. Her pro-Moscow opponent, Alexander Stoyanoglu, said he voted for a Moldova that will develop good ties with both the West and the East. Brussels is closely watching the election after Sandu set Moldova on the long path of EU accession talks in June. It comes a week after Georgia, another ex-Soviet state seeking EU membership, re-elected a ruling party regarded in the West as increasingly pro-Russian. Moldova's future has been in the spotlight since Russia began its full-scale invasion in 2022 of neighboring Ukraine to the east. On Sunday, Sandu's national security advisor Stanislav Secrieru wrote on social media accusing Moscow of interfering in the election, warning it was, quote, an effort with high potential to distort the outcome. Secrieru cited reports of Moldovans being transported to vote in an organized and illegal way from a pro-Moscow breakaway region where Russia has soldiers stationed as peacekeepers. There was no immediate comment from Moscow, which has denied past allegations of meddling. The Moldova government has also accused Ilan Shor, a fugitive oligarch living in Russia, of spending millions of dollars to pay off voters to oppose Sandu. It's said the meddling affected the election's first-round results on October 20th. Shor has denied wrongdoing.
Protests erupted on Sunday as Spain's King Felipe visited a suburb in Valencia, badly hit by last week's deadly floods. Residents of Paiporta shouted murderers at the King and Queen, as well as Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. People hurled mud and other objects at them, venting pent-up anger over what they believe were poor handling by the authorities of last Tuesday's storm and flooding. It was known and nobody did anything about it, a young man told Felipe. The king stayed despite the chaos to speak with the people. He was seen hugging some residents and at one point had a man crying on his shoulder. Residents are furious at the authorities, accusing them of sending late warnings about the dangers of the storm and floods. They also say emergency services responded slowly after disaster struck. The central government has said issuing alerts to the population is the responsibility of regional authorities. Valencia's officials have said they acted as best they could with the information available to them. Prime Minister Sanchez said on Saturday that any potential negligence would be investigated later. The death toll from the country's worst flash floods in modern history edged higher on Saturday. Almost all have been in the Valencia region and especially Paiporta. But it's still expected to rise, with dozens of people still unaccounted for, while some 3,000 households remained without power, officials said. With the floods causing extensive damage to the region, many local residents are now coming together to rebuild their communities. Here in Chiva, about 19 miles from Valencia, many people were seen helping to clear mud and debris off the streets, while others signed up as volunteers to hand out food, water and other essential supplies. It comes as thousands of additional troops and police joined the disaster relief effort over the weekend in the largest such peacetime operation in Spain. The tragedy is so far Europe's worst flood-related disaster in a single country since 1967, when around 500 people died in Portugal.
Am I going the right way?
Shep Kremrine might be retired, but ahead of November 5th, he's got an important task: getting people to the polls. He's a volunteer for Souls to the Polls, Wisconsin. The Milwaukee-based voting rights group provides transportation primarily for low-income people and people of color to polling sites.
If not me, who else would do this? If I'm not going to spend my time doing something like this during an election season, you sit around, watch TV, complain about, you know, the way things are, whatever, or you see all the commercials. Well, this is doing something about it, getting people out to vote and making sure that everybody gets the chance.
On this particular day, the 61-year-old retired neurologic music therapist is waiting outside a voting station for Belinda Molina. She said she was grateful she could get a ride before Election Day.
On the 5th, I mean, it's going to be packed and crowded with people where it goes. But it's best to get out and vote early, get my vote counted.
Crumrine said he first thought he could become a poll worker, but after attending training, he realized it wasn't for him.
Poll workers have to know a lot of things. There's a lot of checks and balances, and I already know how to drive.
Since joining the volunteer organization 5 years ago, Crumrine said it's gotten more complicated to vote in Wisconsin. His volunteer efforts are an act of democracy, he said.
Whether that's voter suppression, whether you believe that, whatever you might believe about it, this is another way to just help everybody make it as simple as possible for them to vote, because everybody has the right. So this is just my way of helping that happen, I guess.
It was a beautiful experience to see my father, to embrace him, to feel the love of a father. I hope God's will is fulfilled with the upcoming elections. I hope God's will is done during the election, that the right person will allow them to keep on doing this event. This allows many people to meet with relatives whom they can't see.
This is a human crisis. Many people are dying for looking for a better life. Also, the other thing that nobody's talking about just very close to the election is that there is a massive impact on Latino families in the shape of family separation. The border, deportation, and immigration policies are separating families.
These sculptures are made from scrap metal in Benin.
Cette pièce, elle s'appelle construction.
The sculptor, Charlie Dalmeida, has been transforming the discarded material into art for the past 15 years.
Quand on voit le produit fini,
when they see the final product, eventually displayed on a white wall, they think, it's with this junk that you make these beautiful artworks?
Dalmeida is a key figure in the country's contemporary art scene. His work has been displayed across Africa, Europe, and the US. He sources his materials from local metal markets like this one. Metal recycling is common in the country, where young entrepreneurs collect and sell it. Dalmeida says once he's selected the right pieces, he becomes focused entirely on the work.
je suis tellement relax.
I am so relaxed in what I do, in my focus to bring the work to completion.
Dans ma concentration,
the realization of the artwork that is in my mind, that even when people walk by and talk, I don't pay attention to them. This is to say that working with scrap metal is my breath, my life, my daily routine, and my everyday language.
Benin used to export scrap metal, but the government banned that in 2023 to support local artisans and protect jobs. The country's competition director at the Ministry of Industry and Trade, Bernard Ehun, says sellers could get more money by exporting overseas, but that would dry up the local market where scrap metal is also needed. As for Dalmeida, he says his hope is to inspire a new generation of artists to see the potential for art in something that may have otherwise been thrown away.